Hi, welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. Let's watch everything you want to watch.
I think we should retitle it Let's Watch Every Western I Want to Watch.
I think we should after this week. I feel like, well, it's better a Western than a sci-fi in my opinion, so let's do that.
That's what Haley's always said. 2015, Bone Tomahawk.
This was a movie that I probably would have just not wanted to watch because it was a Western, and until recently, well, not so recently, I guess, but like Westerns aren't something I would gravitate to, and I think the more I sort of do this, more I realize that it's just I'm changing as well, like once when I was young, there's no fucking way I'd want to put 2 hours into a Western movie. But I think I'm getting older and my mum made me watch True Grit, and that was a bit of a real sort of turning point and realizing I think I might actually like Westerns. But anyway, this one has been on the list for quite a while and just hasn't quite got there.
This has been on the list probably since about 2016, since I bought it and put it on the shelf. And I myself had not seen Bone Tomahawk before we watched it. This is the first episode of Let's Watch Everything You Want to Watch where I suggested a film that I hadn't even seen. And the reason I may as well swing into this is the reason why there are movies that I want to watch with you at times, even though I haven't seen them, because I'm so particular about the films I watch. I trust the movies that I want to watch either on who has recommended it to me and why, or much like people have favorite bands and musical artists that they follow, I have favorite directors and favorite writers and favorite performers whom I trust a lot of the time. That said, on friends' recommendations and what I had read online, this sounded like the type of movie I had to see for what I heard. And so I bought it and put it on the shelf, and I didn't want to watch it, get to the end of it, and end up in a conversation with you where I was just saying, oh man, you got to watch this movie, it's awesome, and have to watch it a second time.
Yeah, well, I've got a feeling that we actually bought this off the back of me talking about True Grit. I remember watching it at my mum's and being like, oh, watch this fucking movie, and she wanted me to get it for you, so you watched it. And now I guess one thing that I would explain that if there's one thing getting around you not watching a movie, but was no way to get around my mum, so I had to watch this movie and it's Coen Brothers, and it was great. She had seen it anyway, but I really got a feeling that it was bought off the back of that. Like, it was like, oh, you want a fucking Western? Here's a Western I've heard about. Like, yeah. And I mean, I think a huge selling point, and again, this just isn't one that I've deliberately not watched. I think it's like, oh, there's probably 47,000 things I would put before it. But Kurt Russell, love Kurt Russell. Who doesn't?
Oh boy, this movie is full of fantastic names.
Yeah.
And awesome performances that back up those names.
Yeah, definitely.
We've got Richard Jenkins,
who he did, what do we say, Top Gun?
No, that's a different fella. I'm talking about Richard Jenkins, whom I'm pretty sure was in Shape of Water most recently, yes. But he's the father from Step Brothers.
Yeah, he is so great as Chicory in this movie. I was obsessed with him. I thought he was the sweetest, cutest little guy. Loved him.
I didn't pick him. I always pick Richard Jenkins when I see him, but his performance is a little off. Like, he's a little more doddery, a little more older than he usually is. He's grizzled. He's got more hair on
really
his face,
different.
And
you know what gave it away for me? His voice.
Yeah,
I could be his voice,
and that sweet sentiment. It kind of
he's wanting to be fucking pop.
Soaks out of all of his performances, doesn't it?
Yeah. He was a real scene stealer for me. I love that kind of character. Kurt Russell was fucking sick.
Kurt Russell was fantastic. I'm not the biggest Kurt Russell fan. However, I must acknowledge that I'm certain that comes from his predilection. Is that the right word? His drive to play these foolish, boyish, idiot characters.
You are not talking about Tango and Cash.
He has done it so many times and so well that some silly part of me believes that that's actually who Kurt Russell is this silly, bumbling idiot. And I love silly, bumbling idiots, so I don't know what I've got against Kurt Russell.
Yeah,
he is A grade in this film.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed him. Who else? Well, we had, I guess,
Matthew Fox,
hold on,
is that his name?
Yeah, and smaller appearances from David Arquette and
Matthew Fox is fantastic
Sid
as
Haig.
well. I wouldn't have picked him until his quiet moment towards the end. And Sid Haig, yes.
David Arquette. I guess this is a good spot to probably say that you should go and see this movie. Again, I wouldn't want to ruin this movie for anyone because I enjoyed it so much. So
there's a lot on the shelf for this film. If it is so well written, I'd put that above anything else associated with this film. It just sings. It's got such beautiful language in it. The conversations, it's colourful, it's descriptive, and it's kind and caring at times, and you probably wouldn't take that. They're not the kind of words you'd use to explain the film Bone Tomahawk, but it is written so well. The performances are great. The story, if you can handle a bit of violence and a bit of blood, you'll be fine.
And look, that said, if you want to watch it without it being ruined, you should probably go and do that.
Because we're going to talk about it.
It's a fucking weird movie. It's weird. To me, it's fairly original, but like you pointed out, we're on a bit of a Western cannibal theme, so I don't know if it is that original. But
so we're in spoiler territory.
That's what I just said.
Yeah. Just
clarifying it with the... Cool.
3 flesh-eating Westerns in a row. How does that even happen? And 2 of them have David Arquette in it.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's just his scene, you know. He would have fit right in Near Dark as well.
Yeah, he
would have. Yeah, this is a really bizarre movie, and I wish that I didn't, but I did read the back of it right before we chucked it in. That said, I mean, it's not the worst, but yeah,
It was sold to me on, you have to see this ending. The ending of this film is so up your alley. Also, a lot of the film critics I follow online all sung its praises heavily, and I think the hype is real. This movie is a real good time. I laughed so much.
I had anxiety from, being on the edge of my seat. I cried at the end. I was riveted, and then when I was being riveted or anxious, there was a giggle there as well. Like Grant said, the dialogue is second to none. It's fucking great. Like it's captivating. I didn't much think about what was happening because the movie really holds you in the moment. Like there were moments where my mind's wandered and just for a brief moment would think, oh, where is this going to go? And I'm like, I don't care. I'm here now, and this is awesome and gripping and exciting, and it's...
And yet, this is not a handsome horse. And another line of dialogue that pops into my mind is David Arquette's at the bar, and they come in to confront him at the start, and he's throwing a million questions at him, trying to get to the bottom of his story. Why he's here, why he's in town, why does he look so shady, whose clothes you're wearing. And he spits out this line is, you've been squirting lemon juice in my eye ever since you walked into this bar. And I was left mouth agape at times because the dialogue was so delicious.
It was, and they knew where to pack it and knew where to hold back. And I think that one thing for me that I enjoyed along with that is the characters. The characters are good people. They don't all like each other, but they've got a common goal, maybe different motivations for reaching it, but they're good people. and I really liked that the sheriff is such a good man. He's the sheriff that you want, you know, in your town. And
it's a real study in leadership and how we get along with one another, even though we have such stark differences, and how to be kind and respectful to one another, even though we're of different ilk.
And there were very big themes in this movie. Some of them huge themes that were only touched on in terms of Native Americans. And, you know, I think that's probably what you just said makes me think of that, you know, different ideas of bigotry and racism and motivations for that. But it was such a small part of the movie, but so poignant and touching, and I found myself thinking about that as well. And people caring about each other even if they don't believe in the same thing, and in this current climate that's really inspiring and made my heart have a little flutter, you know.
I found that there's just a slight subtext underneath the film, but it's not waving too many flags, it's not trying to capture your attention, it's just sort of bumbling under the surface. There's also, in line with what you were saying, a string of sort of commentary and discussions about religion and its superstitiousness, but how also we respect those who do sort of think differently and behave differently. And
that's right, and people coming from different backgrounds, and how that flames and informs their opinions and things. But yeah, like you said, I think some of the beauty and all that that's not what the movie's about. It's got nothing to do with that. But yeah, you do think about them, and I think these characters really highlighted some great ways that people can interact with when they have to and might not agree.
I think you could watch this film as a straightforward switch your brain off horror movie. If you wanted to dig into all those other themes and contexts that we were suggesting, it's all there. But like I said, it's not so loud that you can't just go for this trip across the desert.
Chill out.
Oh my God, Patrick Wilson, good for him, dragging himself for how long he.
Oh yeah, and he's fucking coin making that bad boy, that's for sure. And they're filthy and dirty, and it creates such a good vibe, a realistic vibe. Like, I was fucking hurting, man. You saw me, I winced a few times, and it wasn't because anyone was being attacked. It was because this poor fucker's leg's broken, and
Well, in my mind, because it had been sold as you've got to see this ending, and the title of the film being Bone Tomahawk, and old mate being left behind with his bung leg, which is threatened to get... Hold
on. Should we swow up and do a quick summary of it? Is what we're saying making sense without it?
Well, I figure if you're listening to this part, you've already seen it.
Okay.
And you leave Patrick Wilson behind with his threats of amputating the leg. I was so ready for him to turn up, find everyone dead and slaughtered, and he was going to make a tomahawk out of his amputated leg.
Oh, whoa.
That's what I was hoping for. I think that also could make a fantastic film. I'm not complaining
totally, and it was perfectly viable.
I did not see the cannibalism thing coming. I had no idea we were going to watch 3 cannibalistic westerns in a row.
Yeah, and I guess that's it. So the short version is... there's a great love story in there too, which I like. But... there's a town with a sick sheriff and an even sicker assistant to the deputy, we could call him. And anyway, this cowboy, he's got a broken leg. His wife's at home looking after him. She gets abducted along with the actual deputy, and then we're going to go on a little mission with a couple of people. It's your typical sort of gang of...
It's a road trip movie.
Yeah, mismatched people, got different motivations but common goal, and along the way they figure out that they figure out early on from the arrow that was used that it's a weird cannibal troglodyte tribe, and that's sort of all about it. You see a bit of a hint of one, and then before you know it, you're just on the fucking road trip aspect of the movie until you get to the end where you find out where they live, how...
And the film's not playing any tricks with you. It's not hinting that it could be something else, that it might be a ghost in the woods or...
No, you know straight up what's going on, and I think in lots of ways that's what's so... admirable about his movie is it's like there's no tricks, there's no side shit. It's a straight story.
What was his name? Did you write it down by chance?
I
The director.
didn't.
His name is, I'm sure it's S. Craig Zala, and for what I understand, he's gone on to make his own reboot, perhaps slash sequel to the Puppet Master series, which has been a long-running C to D grade horror movie series, which I find very intriguing, because watching Bone Tomahawk, I couldn't stop thinking about a film Larry Clark made called Teenage Caveman, which is also this silly B-grade exploitation film that's fairly recent. A caveman film in the field of Kids, the movie Kids, like.
Oh, yeah.
And so, yeah, there's kind of a trashy exploitation to the story of Bone Tomahawk. It's just that it's presented in a really clean, sincere, prestige film kind of way.
Yeah, and they don't flinch from their story, so you don't either. Like, that's what's going on. And a big shout out to the fucking no leg, no armed, deaf mute conjoined pregnant lady beast thing who had mallets bashed into her eyes or something. That was really awesome.
Oh my god, what do you call cutting a human being in half down?
I call it getting Ed gained a bit.
Getting Ed
gained.
There was a serious gaining in this film.
Yeah. Well, that famous photo. Anyway. I always struggle with these kind of monsters a bit. I was pleased that they were the climax of the movie in lots of ways, but their shit's cool. Like, they look cool. They got bones coming out their faces. They're big. They're not too overdone. I like them as beasts.
I'm interested in it. Sorry.
I fucking wanted them slaughtered, that's for sure.
Yeah, I wanted to see...
Getting in the way of my fucking love story.
Comeuppance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Comeuppance, the movie, also known as Bone Tomahawk. I also am not a Western fan. I think it is by chance that in these early days of the podcast, we've done 3 Westerns in a row. This isn't something on my behalf where I'm some mad Western fan trying to turn you on to them at all. I'm not fussy, but I think the 3 films are a great example of... straight up, isn't it interesting that we quickly judge a Western because it's out in... People have cowboy hats and there's dirt and horses everywhere, but... you don't hear many people anti-city films.
No, I hate city films.
Yeah,
films in New York.
Yeah.
God, fuck that.
Well, there probably are people that hate New York films. But, yeah, my point being is that good writing, good filmmaking, good performances, a good plot, a good story can supersede a genre you have a preconceived idea of.
Yeah, and I think I'm sort of learning that you can even be a kind of movie that I want to turn my nose up at, but if you've got all the right elements, then, it's not going to be hard to watch either. Like, this movie was easy as pie to watch. I'd totally watch it again. It was super gripping. Yeah, like, and it sort of made you go, well, you could put that movie in any setting and with that dialogue and it would probably work. I mean, you just tweak it to where it would fit, but it was just solid.
Could be in the snow of Canada or something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Or it was just great. It was a well-written, thought out movie, and visually it was beautiful. I think that's one thing I'm learning that I do really love about Westerns is the sets, the costumes, the scenery, and that old-timey vibe, like right down to the dialogue. And the different hair, and I like all that stuff. And I think for this one, the kind of folk that were in it, these were good.
There was a kind-heartedness behind this brutally violent film.
Yeah, and everyone from the town that were involved in this issue treated each other respectfully and kindly as they could, when they were struggling with each other. And I think that was, I liked this. It's a great, like, mateship is a bit of a theme, but they weren't all that like big friends or anything, but just, I don't know, it just had a really good heart about it. And I like that. I like that in a movie. I'm very cheesy and simple like that.
I like the way the film almost massages you into the violence you're going to experience at the end of the film. There's little hints of it peppered through the film. You get to see his leg at first. You get the opening at the cemetery, and but like I feel like even when they're setting his leg, they just give his bone this one massive jank with the hammer, and then it cuts immediately. And it's this little hint of, you're going to get cracked with something soon, and it's going to hurt you, and we're not going to cut away. Like,
yeah,
I felt like it teased the violence out, and then just emptied the plate onto the table for you at the end.
Yeah, look, I mean, there was one scene that we watched, and I just went, that was horrific. And I mean, I think that's a great sign of a horror movie. That's what you want, isn't it? Like, and so many moments that I winced, because of all the things, like when a movie makes you wince, like bone crunching or someone hurting themselves in that way. And I was so much wincing.
It's a B-grade horror presented as a prestige Western.
Yeah, definitely. It's I haven't seen Hateful Eight yet, not for any other reason that, again, I probably more of a timing thing. Yeah. It's not because it's Western. I love Tarantino movies. But this has made me want to get into that. Kurt Russell looking all handsome and sheriffy, and I like him when he's scruffy and rugged. So I think I'll have to hit that one soon.
Oh, I'm so tempted to do There Will Be Blood next, but there's just not enough cannibalism in it, I don't think, for me to recommend it to you. Who knows what's next and around the corner.
Well, that's right. There can't be too many more cannibal westerns left to go.
Who knew?
I really enjoyed this movie. I would highly, highly recommend this to anyone that likes a good movie and who isn't put off by violence or a bit of a weird turn or something. I don't know. I think
if you enjoy Ravenous, you'll love Bone Tomahawk.
Yeah, definitely. And then I've got a bit of a list going in the back of my notebook about movies that we have watched that I haven't wanted to watch. I thought maybe mentioning some that we've actually got to before the podcast, not to elaborate on, but
hit us with one. What do you got on your list?
The top one, and it's probably one of the ones that we laugh about the most, was Cue the Winged Serpent. Now, I avoided this movie. It was sitting out there like on the shelf with its cover out, and I was like, that movie looks like it's going to be a pile of fucking dog shit, man. I don't want nothing to do with it. But Grant held pretty tight on that one. He'd suggest it frequently, and I'd do me little side dodge roll thing, I guess. And then one day I just went, yeah, you know what? Like, okay, cool.
I think I got you in with New York, didn't I?
Yeah, and was there an actor in it? And I'm like, oh my God.
His name's like Michael Mariachi or something.
Yeah, but yeah, I think, and because Q lives in the Chrysler building, and
Michael Moriarty. Oh, it's close.
Oh, that's
Michael
right,
Moriarty. And the film is Larry Cohen's Cue the Winged Serpent, and it has the most gorgeous cover art. The most
it does.
best poster, and it's got fantastic stop motion monster work in it, and it's so dated, 70s.
Yeah, if Grant said those things to me, I can see I was going, okay. okay, dodging that one. And then we watched it one day and I was just like, what the fuck? This movie's awesome. It's just like a telly movie and it showcases New York great. I loved Q the cheesy shit serpent. And yeah, that one was a big win. Like one of the ones that we laugh about and I have to go,
Maybe we can chip through this list at the end of each episode.
well, that's right. Yeah, I thought I'd just drop one at the end of every episode. So
and I would go on to recommend Q the Winged Serpent to anyone who I appreciate 70s cinema, but like sort of B-grade cheap monster movies.
And you know, I loved about it the 70s detective cop element. Like that is right up my alley, and that was all
and the
there.
kind of characters that Michael Moriarty plays. He's such a character himself,
so
isn't he?
Cool. Anyway, highly recommend Q the Winged Serpent. Don't judge.
And that's this episode of Let's Watch Everything You Want to Watch.
It is.
Thank you very much for watching Bone Tomahawk with me. I'm glad I don't have to sit down and tell you about this fantastic film, which I can't tell you how it changes or what the ending is, because one day I hope you'll sit down and watch it with me. I'm glad you just sat down and watched it with me. I very much appreciate it.
Yeah, this one, when you said that we were going to do this one, I was pretty stoked on that. I was happy about that choice for sure. I was excited. It's been there for quite a while. And
yeah, I loved it. For everyone who recommended it to me and told me it's my kind of film, you were all correct.
Yeah, and to anyone who needs a good movie to watch, I'd recommend this one if you don't mind a bit of cannibalism and horror. But it's fairly minimal.
Thanks for tuning in again, everyone.
Thank you.
That is not a handsome horse.